Ever get that feeling where, you work hard, the money comes in, but then it just vanishes? Like, where did it even go?
Happens to so many people. It really does.
Yeah, like there's a secret hole in your pocket or something. Well, today we're diving deep into a way to maybe plug that hole. It's about really taking charge of where your money goes. It's called zero-based budgeting. Now, before you think this is just about like endless scrimping and saying no to everything fun.
Right, not deprivation.
Exactly. Think of it more like giving yourself the power to decide what your money does for you. Being intentional.
That's a great way to put it, intentionality. We've been looking at a really helpful article from SideBySide that explores zero-based budgeting, or ZBB, from pretty much all angles.
Okay.
So we're going to unpack what it truly means, beyond just balancing the books. We'll look at its surprising origins, figure out the practical steps to actually make it work in your life.
The how-to.
The how-to, exactly. And see some compelling stories of people who've used it successfully, and also tackle some of the common roadblocks people hit and, how technology can lend a hand these days.
Good stuff.
Yeah, our goal is really to get to the heart of how you can make every single dollar or rupee or whatever currency you use work towards your goals.
Okay, so zero-based budgeting. The SideBySide article lays it out with a simple equation, right? Income minus expenses equals zero.
That's the one.
But when you first hear zero, it might sound like you're aiming to have, absolutely nothing left at the end of the month. Is that really the idea?
Yeah, that's a super common misconception and a great clarifying question. The equals zero part isn't about having literally zero money in your account. Phew.
Okay, good.
It's about the planning. It's the act of intentionally assigning every single bit of money that comes in to a specific category or purpose.
No.
So if you expect to earn, say, $5,000 next month, you sit down beforehand and decide exactly where each of those $5,000 is going to go. Rent, groceries, savings, maybe even a bit for fun.
Gotcha.
The point is, every dollar has a designated job before you spend it. That's why it all adds up to zero difference between income and planned outgoings.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about allocation, not literally spending everything. So this isn't some newfangled trend, right? Where did this approach even come from? It sounds very systematic.
It really does. And what's interesting is it's somewhat unexpected start. It actually came from the corporate world way back in the 1970s.
Really? Not personal finance?
Nope. A finance manager named Peter Pyre at Texas Instruments developed it. It was a more rigorous way for businesses to budget.
How so?
Well, instead of just tweaking last year's numbers, which is kind of the default, right? The idea was to justify every single expense from scratch, like completely fresh, as if the department or company were starting with, zero budget.
Zero-based. Hence the name.
Exactly. Justify everything.
So from big corporations like TI all the way to our own personal finances, it's quite a leap. The article mentions that it even had a brief moment with government budgeting, too.
It did, yeah. President Carter tried to implement it in the federal government. But think about the core principle, carefully considering and justifying every expenditure. It's powerful anywhere resources are limited, which is, pretty much everywhere.
True.
So for personal finance, figures like Dave Ramsey really popularized it, and incredibly useful tools like You Need a Budget, YNA. They really championed this approach for individuals.
Right, I've heard of YNA.
They took that core idea of intentional allocation and just showed people how transformative it could be, gaining real control, real clarity over your money.
All right, so we've got the what and the where it came from. Now, the crucial part, how do we actually do zero-based budgeting? Let's get practical. The SideBySide article breaks it down into steps. Step 1 is all about knowing your income, right?
Absolutely the foundation. Can't budget money you don't know you have. You need a clear, honest picture of all the money consistently coming into your household each month.
So not just the main salary.
Nope. Your net salary, what actually hits your bank after taxes and deductions, plus any income from side gigs, freelance work, maybe even regular benefits you receive. Get that total figure. That's your starting point. That's the pool of resources you'll be assigning jobs to.
Okay, got my income number. Step 2 sounds like it needs some serious attention to detail. Listing all your expenses. When I think about where my money goes, sometimes it feels like trying to catch smoke.
It can feel that way initially, definitely. But this step is so insightful. The SideBySide article wisely suggests categorizing these expenses. It makes it manageable.
How should we categorize?
Well, think about your fixed costs first. Those predictable amounts each month, rent or mortgage, maybe car payments, insurance premiums, utilities sometimes fall here.
The essentials you can't easily change month to month.
Exactly. Then you have your variable expenses. These fluctuate based on your choices, right? Groceries, gas or transport, entertainment, eating out.
The fun stuff, but also the tricky stuff.
That's where tracking really helps. And don't forget really important categories like debt repayments, got a plan for those.
Yeah.
Your savings goals like an emergency fund, retirement contributions.
Super important.
And also what they call sinking funds. Money you intentionally set aside for less frequent, but, predictable expenses like car repairs or holiday gifts or maybe saving for a vacation.
Okay, that makes sense. Breaking it down helps avoid that catching smoke feeling.
Totally.
So, income tallied up, comprehensive list of expenses created, hopefully.
Yeah.
Now comes the part where you actively take control. Step 3. Giving every dollar a job. I really like that phrase. It makes it feel proactive, not restrictive.
It absolutely is proactive, and it's the real essence of ZBB. You take that total income figure from step 1 and you deliberately assign every single cent, every rupee, every dollar to one of those expense categories you just listed.
Down to the last penny.
Right down to zero, until your income minus all your planned expenses equals exactly zero. The article gives a great example, actually, an income of Rs. $84,000. And it shows specific amounts planned for everything. Rent, so much, groceries, this much, transport. Even, interestingly, cigarettes are listed as a specific tracked expense.
Wow, specific.
Yeah. Then utilities, internet, entertainment, savings, emergency fund, a bit for miscellaneous stuff. And what's powerful is that when you add up all those assigned amounts, they precisely match the Rs. $84,000 income.
So you see exactly where it's supposed to go.
Exactly. No guesswork. It's a very clear visual map for your money.
Seeing it laid out like that really makes it tangible. But, life happens. Curveballs get thrown. Our spending isn't always the same month to month. So the final implementation step 4, is about adjusting, right? It's not static.
Precisely. A budget isn't a rigid set-it-and-forget-it document you frame on the wall. The Side-by-Side article rightly emphasizes this. Each new month brings different things. Maybe a birthday pops up, a festival, an unexpected repair bill.
Or maybe income changes slightly.
Or income changes. So you need to regularly look at your budget, ideally before the month begins, see what needs tweaking for this month, and make those adjustments. Keep it relevant to your current reality and priorities.
Okay, it's definitely a process.
Right.
So why put in this level of effort? What are the real tangible benefits of doing all of this? The article highlights several compelling reasons.
Yeah, and the first one is huge. It's about financial awareness and that word again, intentionality.
Knowing where it's going.
Exactly. You shift from just passively watching your money disappear, maybe checking your balance in panic, to actively directing its path, making conscious decisions. That's a powerful shift in your whole relationship with money.
Yeah, I can see that. It also strikes me that this could be a really effective way to find and cut out those little, maybe unconscious spending habits that don't really serve us. The leaks in the bucket.
Absolutely spot on. By starting from that zero base each month and having to consciously give every dollar a purpose, you're forced to evaluate things. Those subscriptions you barely use, the impulse buys online.
The daily coffee that adds up.
Right. If they don't have a designated job in your budget, it becomes much clearer if they're actually necessary or align with your bigger goals. It's easier to say, you know what, I'm cutting that.
And for anyone carrying debt, which is a lot of people, this sounds like a really focused way to make progress on paying it down faster.
It really is. Yeah. Because when every dollar has an assigned task, you can intentionally prioritize debt repayment. You decide upfront, okay, this month, X amount is going straight to that credit card.
Rather than hoping there's something left over.
Exactly. You can clearly see how much you can realistically allocate, maybe even challenge yourself to allocate more, and that dedicated focus can seriously accelerate your journey to becoming debt-free. It frees up cash flow later, too.
Yeah, makes sense. And beyond just getting out of debt, it seems like ZBB actively encourages building a more secure future through consistent saving and investing.
Yes, that's another key benefit. Savings and investments aren't treated as an afterthought like whatever scraps are left over at the end of the month, which, let's be honest, is often nothing. We all have. Instead, savings become a planned category, just like rent or groceries. It's a bill you pay to your future self right from the start.
I like that, a bill you pay to your future self.
And that proactive, consistent approach just leads to much more significant progress towards your long-term goals, whether it's retirement, a down payment, whatever. it builds wealth steadily.
And maybe one of the biggest benefits for many people, I imagine, is just peace of mind. Knowing where your money's going, having a plan, that must cut down on financial stress, right?
Oh, massively. That's a really important point the article makes. Having that clear plan, knowing you've allocated funds for your needs, your goals, and for those inevitable emergencies, building that buffer, it really can reduce financial worry and anxiety. It gives you a sense of control, which feels good.
Yeah, control is a big one. The side-by-side article really brings these benefits to life with some relatable real-world examples. Talk about Sana from Lahore. Her situation sounds like something many of us can probably identify with.
Sana's story really resonates, doesn't it? Earning a decent income, or $100,000, but still feeling like she was constantly running short each month, just couldn't figure out where it was all going.
A classic mystery.
Exactly. So she implemented ZBB, started tracking diligently, and uncovered something significant. A staggering Rs. $12,000 a month was just vanishing on untracked food deliveries.
Wow, $12,000. That's a lot.
It adds up fast. So she made a conscious decision using her budget. She cut that down to Rs. $4,000, still enjoying some convenience, but planned and intentionally redirected the difference, that Rs. $8,000 saving each month.
And what happened?
Well, she managed to save an impressive Rs. $96,000 within just 1 year. And she actually achieved her goal of taking an international trip.
That's amazing, just from tackling the food delivery monster.
It just shows how even seemingly small leaks, when plugged with intention and tracked through ZBB, can lead to really significant outcomes.
Okay, great example. And then there's Ahmed, who faced a big debt challenge and used ZBB as his weapon.
Yeah. Ahmed's journey really highlights the power of that focused allocation we talked about. He was facing a substantial burden, Rs. $500,000 in credit card and student loan debt. Felt overwhelming, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
He used ZBB not just to stop the cycle of impulse spending that probably got him there in the first place, but also to consistently, aggressively allocate Rs. $30,000 every single month, specifically towards his debt.
That's serious commitment.
It is. And the result, he became completely debt-free in just 18 months.
18 months from $500,000. That's incredible.
It's a powerful testament to how effective this method can be when you apply it with discipline and a clear plan.
Wow. The article even shares some hard numbers, right? Some statistics from a YN Abbey survey from 2024.
It does, yeah. And these numbers really underscore the impact ZBB has. Get this. 85% of YNAB users reported feeling significantly more in control of their money within just 3 months of using the system.
85% in 3 months. That's fast.
Isn't it? And 67% found themselves saving more money than they ever had before. Plus, over half, 54%, actually paid off at least one credit card completely within their first year.
Those are really strong indicators. It clearly works for a lot of people.
Yeah, the real-world effectiveness seems pretty clear from those stats.
Yeah.
Tangible benefits.
So for someone listening who's thinking, okay, this sounds promising, maybe even life-changing, like for Sana and Ahmed, but how do I actually get started? What kind of tools and resources are out there? The side-by-side article mentions a few options.
Yeah, luckily we have tons of options these days, especially with tech. Budgeting apps are probably the most popular starting point. YNAB itself, which we mentioned, is basically built entirely around ZBB principles.
You have every dollar a job, rather than the app.
Exactly. Every dollar, which comes from Dave Ramsey's team, also follows that core ZBB philosophy. Then there's Good Budget, which is interesting. It's like a digital version of the old school envelope system.
Oh, like cash in envelopes?
Kind of, yeah. It helps you allocate specific amounts to virtual envelopes for different spending categories. Really aligns with the ZBB idea. And even some broader apps like Pocket Guard can help by showing you clearly what's safe to spend after bills and goals, which helps with the allocation part.
Okay, lots of apps. But what about for people who prefer maybe a more, traditional approach? Or maybe just don't want another app?
Totally fair. And there are still plenty of effective DIY methods. The article highlights the good old spreadsheet, Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel. They're super customizable.
You can find templates online too, right?
Oh, tons of them. Lots of free ZBB templates out there. Or you can build your own from scratch if you like tinkering. Printable worksheets are another option. You can find them on financial blogs. And SideBySide's own YouTube channel apparently has resources too.
Good to know.
And honestly, for people who like a more tactile feel, a simple notebook or journal can work just fine, pen and paper. Sometimes that physical act of writing it down really helps it stick.
Right. And you mentioned the envelope system. The article specifically calls that out as a tool. How does that work with ZBB, especially if you're maybe using cash?
Yeah, the physical envelope system is a very concrete way to manage those variable expenses, the tricky ones. And it pairs perfectly with ZBB.
How so?
Well, after you've done your zero-based budget plan, you decide on your categories, say, groceries, eating out, entertainment, personal spending. Then you actually withdraw the budgeted amount of cash for each category and put it in a labeled envelope.
Literally cash in envelope.
Literally. And the rule is simple. Once the cash in the eating out envelope is gone, you can't spend any more on eating out for the rest of the month. Period.
Ooh, that forces discipline.
It really does. It makes your spending very visible and finite. It can be incredibly helpful if you find it easy to just tap a card without really thinking about the budget.
Yeah, I can see that being powerful. Okay, so lots of tools, lots of benefits, but let's be real. No budgeting method is perfect or easy for everyone. The article touches on some common challenges or criticisms people run into with ZBB.
Yeah, it's important to be realistic. And one of the first things people often find is that it can feel pretty time-consuming, especially when you're just starting out.
Tracking every single transaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Meticulously tracking every dollar or rupee coming in and going out definitely requires a commitment of time and attention, especially in those first few months. But, like the SideBySide article points out, the advice is usually stick with it.
For how long?
Give it a solid 2 or 3 months. By then, the clarity and control you gain usually make that initial effort feel totally worth it. It starts to become a habit, less of a chore.
Okay, so persistence pays off. What other hurdles?
Another common one is dealing with income that isn't consistent month to month. This is a big one for freelancers, gig workers, commission salespeople.
Yeah, how do you budget down to zero if you don't know exactly what your income will be?
That's a valid challenge. ZBB can feel a bit more complex then. The solution the article suggests, and it's a common one, is to budget based on the previous month's actual income.
Use last month's money for this month's plan.
Exactly. And you work diligently to build up a buffer, maybe 1 month's worth of expenses saved up. That buffer acts as a cushion. So even if you have a lower income month, you still use last month's higher income, now sitting in your account, to fund your budget. It smooths out the bumps.
Okay, that makes sense. Needs a bit more planning ahead. What about the feeling that it's just too restrictive? Like you're policing every penny and can't have any fun.
That's probably the biggest perception issue. People hear zero-based and think zero fun. But it highlights a key misunderstanding, as the article emphasizes.
It's about planning, not punishment.
Exactly. Planning, not deprivation. A good zero-based budget absolutely includes categories for fun. Entertainment, hobbies, travel savings, even just a category labeled stuff I forgot to budget for, or blow money.
So you plan for spontaneity.
You plan for spontaneity. The crucial difference is that these fun expenditures are consciously planned for and allocated funds, rather than being random impulse buys that throw your whole financial plan off track. It's about making intentional choices, even about your leisure spending.
Okay, that reframes it nicely. And finally, it sounds like ZBB isn't something you just set up once and you're done. It requires ongoing effort.
That's absolutely true. It's definitely not a set it and forget it solution. You need to consistently monitor your spending against your plan throughout the month.
Keep checking in.
Yeah, and you need to do that budget review and adjustment session every month to make sure it stays aligned with your income, your expenses, your priorities, which might shift over time.
Seems like the apps could really help with that ongoing tracking part, though.
Oh, for sure. The technology, we talked about budgeting apps that automatically import transactions, show you category balances, maybe send alerts when you're getting close to a limit that can significantly simplify the ongoing management and make it much less daunting.
Okay, good. So technology can ease some of that burden.
Definitely helps streamline the process.
So as we bring this deep dive into zero-based budgeting to a close, what's the sort of core message you'd want our listeners to really take away from all this?
I think ultimately zero-based budgeting is much more than just a budgeting technique. It's really a fundamental shift in your mindset towards money.
A mindset shift. How so?
It's about moving from being reactive, wondering where the money went, to being proactive, making deliberate, conscious decisions about where every single dollar you earn is going to go before it goes there.
Taking the wheel, basically.
Taking the wheel, being intentional with your money. It's about you telling your money what to do instead of the other way around.
It sounds like whether your main goal is, I don't know, building up savings or maybe aggressively paying down debt like Ahmed, or even just getting a clearer picture and feeling more in control day to day. ZBB offers a really structured, effective roadmap for that.
I believe it does. It provides that clarity and a path forward, whatever your specific financial goals might be.
And that core idea from the Side-by-Side article.
Yeah, it really boils down to that simple but powerful idea.
Yeah.
Every single dollar you earn deserves a job.
Deserves a job.
Yeah, it encourages you, the listener, to maybe take a moment, think about your own money, and consider how you can start giving your dollars more intentional roles in building the financial life that you actually want.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Every dollar reporting for duty. The article also kind of hints at some next steps, doesn't it? Further areas to explore.
It does. Things like, okay, how do you adapt ZBB specifically for families or couples? Budgeting together can have its own dynamics, or diving deeper into those strategies for managing irregular income, and how do you integrate ZBB with your investment strategy?
Right, because budgeting is just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. It seems like there's always more to learn and refine on our financial journeys, doesn't it?
Always. And for those listening who are keen to explore those next steps, or maybe see some visual examples or get more tips.
Well, the Side-by-Side YouTube channel, which was the source for a lot of this, was mentioned as a fantastic resource. Apparently, it's packed with more content on personal finance and budgeting strategies, so that might be a good place to continue the learning.
Good tip. So give those dollars jobs, and maybe check out Side-by-Side for more ideas. It sounds like a plan.